Hey, look, it's my friend Ali. Hi, Ali.
Hello.
Ali, thanks so much for taking the time to join us. We're
It's my
talking
pleasure.
about the day one program. And first of all, where are you located?
I'm located in the English Lake District in the north of
Oh,
England.
oh, very good.
Nearly into Scotland, but not quite.
Excellent, excellent. And you had when you came to day one, we knew each other from improvisation.
Yes.
We had done that with each other. When you heard about this class, knowing it was a little different, what interested you and why did you decide to send in for it?
It had structure. It had a kind of curriculum, if you like. Jam when we jam, we all come and jam whatever level we're at. But this one had a 12-stage program, if you like, a bit like Alcoholics Anonymous, I suppose. But it had structure and homework.
Mm. Was that, what was your feeling about that? Was that attractive? Was that daunting? A little of both?
I I think I wanted somebody to validate what I was doing and to submit something and for people to scroll all over it and say, why don't try this, why not do that, and just get a bit more feedback from people generally.
Well, now, and let's back up a little so people understand about your background. How long have you been blogging and telling your story?
Well, I've been diagnosed with Parkinson's nearly 3 years. I've been blogging a year and a half. And in the meantime, there was the pandemic, obviously, which do you know, it wasn't so bad because when you got used to a new normal with Parkinson's, somehow having a year to be quiet and peaceful and reflective actually isn't such a bad thing.
I can see that there are different kinds of isolation, ones that can make
Mm,
you really sad and other ones that can go. And I think, that this is, that to finish that thought, the second type to make you say, okay, this is where I am, the new normal, as you called it.
mm.
I do think that's what this program is partially about. So let's go through this. When you were starting in, then you heard about this thing called the hero's journey. What was your initial thought?
Well, I've been a writer and editor all my life, but mostly for other people's stuff. I've never had the opportunity to really create my own stuff for me that, if nobody, even if nobody was reading it, I'd get a joy out of creating it. And to be honest, I thought the words heroic narrative were all a bit kind of pretentious. But what's going on here? Storytelling. Okay, I'll go on with that. But that was my first impression. You did ask.
That's fair. I think it's reasonable, and I think it's part of the journey to consider the idea, following up on that, of yourself being a hero. When I proposed that very idea, and I see the look on your face, you can go ahead and
Mm.
share what that sounded like to you.
Well, I think I get a lot of people saying, "Oh, you're such an inspiration. You're a hero, a warrior." I think there's a lot of testosterone fueled words in there that I find like battles and war and things, and talking about swords and stuff. Now, of course, the pen is mightier than the sword, so that's where I keep my points sharp.
It is interesting. We play with words a lot because we are writing in this,
Mm,
and you're right that language over time, much of this mythology is based on warlike behavior. Not all of it, but a
mm,
lot of it
mm.
is, and a lot of it was written by men. And
Yeah.
so, I think that that's very fair as we dive into this further to continue to look at what is potential toxic masculinity within this space,
Mm.
and to understand too that particular feministic heroism might look a specific way, needs to be heard at a specific volume in order to balance the pool.
Mm.
So
Mm.
a good note, and I appreciate you bringing it forward, especially since the person who is at the helm of this, Joseph Campbell,
Mm.
is another male. So we need more
Yeah.
female leaders, and perhaps you would like to be, or there are others that like you would like to step forward into that heroistic space as a female.
With my mighty pen. Yeah.
There she is. So now we go forward and we see the mentors step into place, and you realize there's been a group before you. What was your
Yeah.
feeling about meeting the mentors and realizing, okay, this is a program, like you said, not only with some structure, but with foundation, having been run before?
Well, I already knew two of them. and knew two of them well enough to love them dearly and think that one of them in particular, can I name names or?
You may name names, yes.
Oh yeah, well, I thought Susan and I had been, joined at the hip and then separated at birth. So I just felt very, she's in Texas and I'm in England, and I just felt that there is my Parkinson's sister. And of course, remember that the pandemic, all the time that we were not going out, we were extending our contacts across the ocean, extending our contacts through social media and things, and using the technology and the time to do that. And Susan particularly I warmed to, and Rose I know, and Rose does a class with me, which is a very physical neuroplastic class. And so I knew I had buddies, if you like. I didn't fall straight into it, and I didn't come into it thinking, oh, there's a clique of American people and I'm the only lone nut here. I just felt very, very warm to that.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way. We did have 3 participants from the UK.
We did.
And Nicola, Ewan, and Rose. And you were, as you say, the lone UK participant. But I hadn't thought of it. I appreciate you bringing forward that perspective of what it might feel like to join a group of Yanks. And, is this for me? Anything that has any feeling of otherism, I'm very interested in and want to, of course, do whatever I can to break down those walls.
Well, if you remember the first time we met, it was the middle of my night, and I'd made the effort to get up and roll out of bed in my pajamas and come to a jam session. And I liked what I saw then, and it was worth getting out of bed early again and doing stuff.
That dedication deserves a bit of underlining, that within the improvisation course we call Jam for Joy, a weekly, relatively unstructured improvisation event. Yes, you were there at, I believe it was 3 o'clock in the morning your time?
No, it was 2 o'clock in the morning my time, except one, well, we had, oh no, that was another time we had a change. Oh, it doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm not very good with clocks, as you know.
It was when most people are sleeping, we'll put it that way. And you made the effort.
But the trouble is, I was so fired up at the end of it, getting back to sleep was a real problem.
I apologize if that's what I meant to do. So, yes. Well, again, I think that speaks well toward your commitment, not only to an excitement about what we were doing, but towards, I think, taking on your challenges the way you have. And that's not only a note towards you, it is also a note for your influence on the rest of the group. And I think that's part of, what we did. Let's keep going forward. You mentioned along the way, the guest speakers, you seem to have a mixed relationship with the idea of them in terms of the program. Tell me about that, about how they broke up the flow maybe, or what you felt.
Sometimes we would be all at it in the games and getting all excited, and all of a sudden we had to be mindful, or we were doing something quite sensible and serious in discussion. Or we had to, I didn't mind the boxing because I boxed anyway, but I don't know, I think they just stopped me in my tracks, if you like. Lovely people, and great way of showcasing the great sort of brotherhood that support and sisterhood that supports us. But I just thought that they broke up the flow for me. Maybe not for other people. I don't know. Very
fair. I mean, all comments and criticisms are fair and reasonable, and they're for consideration. And you did mention one speaker, Miss Dr. Tanya Crabb, and liking her. What did you like about her?
Oh, she was barking. She was fabulous. Just that whole breakdown of superheroes and heroines, and why she liked one over the other, and that was really crazy.
Yeah. I can note that just about everybody so far has highlighted her in particular. Yes. I look forward to going back to her with that feedback. She'll appreciate that.
Yes.
That's great. So you developed a character, and this character, why don't you introduce who this is, because it was one of our goals to have you get a persona, an avatar, whatever you want to call it, that could embody some of your heroic self. Tell me about your character.
Well, very early on in the story, I realized that I was I was kind of sort of exposed and depressed and sad and grey and ugly. And I developed the ugly duckling as the kind of persona, the way I was feeling at the time in week 4 or 5 or whenever we were. And the ugly duckling went through, as you know, very many channels of water, busy channels, still channels, pools, caves, all sorts of adventures along a train of water, and emerged, just suddenly discovered in about week 9 or 10, that she had wings. And in the next week, she also had a cape and a, we are, let's get an interview.
There she is.
Not just, so this is Daring Ducky Dynamo. And I don't know why, but that it alliterates nicely. And also, I realized, and I think I mentioned this to you at the time, that DDD was 3-dimensional. So I had become 3-dimensional from being a very flat person.
I love that.
Yeah.
And that this manifestation helped bring that out and forward and kind of serve as a talisman for you, that now you have an outward representation. You had something was inside of you that you brought forth.
Yeah, but also not just a talisman, but it became my persona when I came to meet the people again, and everybody said, "Hey, Ducky."
Yes.
And there was one session I think I couldn't go, the last session I couldn't go to, and you slipped me a recording, and somebody said, "Hey, where's Ducky?" And I went, "Oh, I love you."
And you had a representation from BJ, who made sure to have you there in spirit.
John, yeah, so yeah.
That was great. You know, interestingly, along the journey, those watching may or may not know the steps, but for us, it was, I think, step 7 and 8 when we deal with the approach to the cave and then the inmost cave. And it's either 6, 7, or 7, 8. As I remember, you wrote thinking that you weren't sure you had anything in that cave. You thought maybe you had already done what needed to be done, and you weren't sure about the value of heading into that cave. Do you remember that feeling and writing about that, and then perhaps what you did find and how you emerged, as you said, with wings?
Naked, curious and alone, but determined to move forward. I felt that I was still uncomfortable and cold and shivery and pink by now, but not grey. But I'd come this far that it wasn't worth going back. So just to go back, you know what it is if you take a wrong turn. Didn't you take a wrong turning on a run the other day?
Yes.
You know what it's like. You don't think, well, shall I retrace my steps? Shall I get? Oh, and you get home and you're late and you're sweaty and you think, oh, get it. And it was like that. It was like, I know what it's like to retrace your steps, and I think it's sometimes better to go on.
That is a constant question of a journey. And I think framing this experience of having Parkinson's as a journey allows you to see it a certain way, right? It gives you a perspective on where you're at what particular stage you're at. And I think that's what lends in the credibility, potentially, to call it heroic, because sometimes those things really are difficult moment to moment. And they're the lesser known things, I think.
Yeah.
We talk about the motor symptoms a lot. We talk about pills and surgeries a lot, and I think that's good. They're easily measurable. These are less measurable or discussed things, and I think that's what we're trying to bring forward. Does that make sense to you, and does that appeal to you?
It does make sense. I mean, one of the things I keep saying about your sessions is that I do these wonderful neuroplastic exercises and big movements for my arms and legs. And what you do is bring the same power, amplitude, and precision to here. That's right. In a way that's fun. I mean, I'll go back a bit. I was slightly concerned that we'd be navel gazing, that would be, getting a bit too deep and a bit too serious. And I'm not a deep and serious person. I'm very superficial. So that was my concern. So hence getting your rubber duck and dressing it up.
I think
if I'd had to take it seriously, or if I'd found any kind of, if it's dug up any real deep stuff, it might have been different. I don't know.
Right. And I think that is going, the level of comfort that people have with that, is always going to be the challenge. And you
Mm.
saw that throughout this group. There were levels of people going, no, I'm fine, and the people saying, actually, I'm down here. And because different people hit those at different levels, different weeks, overall, the group seems to lift itself up. As long as that's why we start with that improv. Whoever's having
Yeah,
a downtime, the others can go, no, no, you're good. And then that person who lifted might be having a downtime. The others go, oh, no, no, you're good, right? It's the game of you.
yeah. But do you remember that time I really misread the room and I said, it's lovely, I'm so grateful to have all these happy people around me. And one of them said, I'm not happy. And I went, oh gosh,
Yes.
I have messed up here. I have made assumptions. I've assumed everybody's grooving around like I am and on the same whatever it is. And this person was not happy. And I felt, I sunk like a stone then. And I realized that actually part of having a superpower, part of being in this journey is that you've got to read the people around you on the journey and the other passengers, because maybe I wasn't getting that right. So that's part of the story.
That's all of us. And again, as we go through that, so what did you do? You sank like a stone. Did you go away? Did you quit?
No, I moved forward because going back wasn't an option.
There you go.
I also wrote a private note to the person I'd upset, and they were welcome. They welcomed it.
I think both of those things are right. We're talking about resilience, is one of the common themes. Tell me about resilience and maybe how either you felt it within this or saw others demonstrate resilience in this program.
Resilience, bouncing back. Thing is, I think I said earlier on in the program that having a diagnosis of Parkinson's was not the worst thing that ever happened in my life. I lost my father, my first baby, my husband in the space of 4 years in the 80s. And people kept saying, oh, how do you manage all these things that happen to you? You still bounce back. How does that happen? And I realized now, looking back, that I was born with that resilience, born with something that kept me going through it. And what I find exciting now is because I can read it, lots of movies. I'm looking at movies now and thinking, all right, this is the cult adventure, and this is the bit, and that's a cave. And I can read a movie round through everything. And I think you see stories of people with successes in their life beating other things. And I think, that was their cult adventure. I'm looking at their story, and I watched Sully again the other day, and I thought, well, they were just driving the plane around, after going regular flight to Charlotte, North Carolina, or wherever we are, and all of a sudden birds strike, and so the bird strike was a call to adventure, and the thing, and then he had to go through all that stuff where they thought he was drunk or too old to do it, or having I don't know, they really put him through the cave, and they put him through hell. And he came out the other side, and I think that movie has one of the best last lines of all. Do you remember?
I don't. I loved it, but I don't remember the last line.
How would you do it differently? Well, I'd do it in July.
Tom Hanks was perfect. Yeah.
That was his co-pilot said that, but yeah.
Was it? It was his co-pilot who was. I'm trying to think. Was that Aaron Eckhart? I think.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Well, you spoke to a couple things there, which I want to recap. One, the power of humor within dark times.
Oh gosh, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
That speaks toward resilience. You certainly have a good sense of humor. And the way that you've applied these structures, the 12 steps of the hero's journey outside of class, that you've already done these things. Some people fear when they learn something like this to go, oh, is this going to ruin movies or storytelling for me?
Quite the opposite. Quite the opposite.
Yeah. How does it make you feel? Since you, like you said, you can't identify those things, what does it do for your either viewing pleasure or just how you think about, experiencing stories?
It's just a new superpower.
Mm.
It's a new skill, and particularly and I would still call myself a budding writer in this field, because I've only been writing about Parkinson's for a year and a half. For a budding writer, it's just a new tool in my toolkit.
Right. And it's a new tool within the Parkinson's lexicon, right? That, you
Yeah.
know, that I haven't seen it before. And I'm not saying that to tout myself. It's just, you know, like you said, life happens. I didn't expect my dad to get Parkinson's.
No.
I didn't expect to become a care partner within that, not knowing what that meant. And a number of things have just pushed in that direction that, you know, yeah, I had this deep background in the hero's journey and storytelling from my work in improvisation.
Mm.
And finally, I think you come to life and you say, it makes a lot more sense than to put these things together than to try to hold them in separate camps.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, so then we evolve and we become, and you have some interesting evolutionary ideas for this program.
I do, because I think get a shiny new car and you drive it out of the showroom, and it's fun for a little while, and then bits start to fall off and things. And I just like to have this kind of after sales service that we do with our shiny new motor car, just keeping those superpowers polished.
Right.
Because I think they could. So if you like, what we've done is in the journey is a bachelor's course in advocacy, and this is like a graduate course that just polishes it and makes it, because I think some of the superpowers get abused by other people. You're kind to other people, they take the mickey. You're resilient, they go, oh, she's so bouncy. I got trolled the other day by a guy who said, you know, the novelty will soon wear off.
Wow.
And I thought, okay, well, I didn't. Well, and I know you don't feed the trolls. I didn't say anything, but I'll say it here because I know the novelty will wear off. I've seen people's novelty wearing off. I'm prepared for that day,
Right.
And I'm not. You know, I don't fear it because but while I'm waiting for that to happen, I could still go boxing and waving my arms around and making people happy. What am I going to do in the meantime if I'm not doing what I'm doing, and I'm just sitting there and going, well, they'll just going to wear off. So, what's the point? You know.
You're exactly right. And you know, one of our friends whom you know from the jam, Paula, said the other day, I think quite well in the jam, that you know, she was discussing losing certain elements. You know, and again, some of them may be strictly age related. They may not be Parkinson's. They may whatever. This is life. And then she said, I didn't know that I had this, whatever the added thing was, until I let go of that. So we go through our lives holding on to various identities, and they're often tied to abilities or you know, ways of doing things, going places. And it isn't until we yes and the fact that those things are past that we open our eyes to, as you mentioned, the discovery of what is next. What will be your new superpower? Acknowledging the possibility that there is another one out there or others out there. That alone, that growth mindset, can lead to really a dynamic view on life.
So are you looking for us to develop that amongst us, sort of talk amongst ourselves and bring that to you while you're busy finishing off, or what?
So my program, as you know, I mean, on schedule to hopefully finish, I keep saying hopefully, quit qualifying, to finish in December. And yes, I mean, I love the idea that you mentioned as far as, I mean, a regular session. I think the mixing of your cohort with the first cohort is a very good idea, and to establish new relationships and to keep putting out, here's what I like, keep making it fun for yourselves and see what's next, right? I mean, again, you won't know until you get to that place. Now, what these things might include, you mentioned superpowers like connection and grace, resilience, creativity, all those things, they need to be defined and explored, you know, by all the different points of view, right? So that's what I'd love to see. What do you think about that? I mean, could you see how this soup comes together and what flavor it might be?
Yeah, I can see like each one of us leading a session, like BJ, the baton, passing the baton rouge connector guy, he could lead the session on connection. And Kelly could lead the section on the thirst for knowledge. And we've all got something that's dear to our hearts, and people could lead different sessions and put their mark on them. And then it's not down to one person to facilitate the whole thing, because I think that would be a bit self-conscious and a bit.
Agreed. The leaderless room allows all of you to strengthen yourselves individually and, figure out collectively what this thing is. And you have form, you have some common language, and you certainly have some common interests. So for all those reasons, yes, at a future date, 2023, I would love to be involved more formally in that, because we would, certainly looking to expand the program. And there are lots of parts of Parkinson's communities that are not yet being addressed, and trying to get those individuals in to recognize the value of what they, can learn. And you're actually part of that as someone who's, considered, not exactly, you're recently, within the last 5 years, diagnosed at least.
Yeah.
So, we tended to skew further into the diagnosis in our first cohort. So getting people earlier, the earlier we get people to set this foundation, the more we set the mindset to live longer, better. That's the proposal.
What was quite interesting in the journey was that in the early stages, I was writing in the past tense. And then I got to a little bridge when I thought, oh, I don't know what's happening next.
Yes. You've identified something very important in the program, and it was difficult for me as the facilitator when I was designing this to know, right, ordinary world, call to adventure, refusal of the call. Those tend to be very much, past tense. Meeting a mentor may be a past tense. As we get into test, allies, enemies, now it's like, okay, where do we go? Because that's the crossing of the threshold, right? That means we're taking what was and going into what is, and maybe what we fear will be or hope will be, right? That mix of energy. And that's where, as you noted, the program, becomes much more open for you to explore.
And do you remember that I said for one of the assignments that I said, I don't know what I'm going to say for this one? And wasn't it the best one I turned in? Yeah.
If I had to rate them, yes. That's a bit of that phrase we love to say, the trusting of the unknown, right? When we really think we have nothing, that's sometimes our best. And just let come out, whether it feels like gibberish or anything, right? And explore the space honestly, truthfully.
I think that whole trust the unknown thing. When people say, "How do you do it?" I'd say, well, because I've developed, I'm not afraid of what's happening next. Bring it on. I'll manage it somehow.
You spoke to having being born with some resilience earlier. You say that's just part of you, right?
Yes.
I absolutely accept that as your journey, and would add to that I don't think it's with all due respect, I don't think it's a unique quality. I do think we all have it, and it's developable. You can develop your resilience based on practice, based on your mental state and those who you surround yourself with. Right. So you're right. You may be graced at a certain point with more. We all are. We have certain attributes, right? And at the same time, just like improvisation, that's something we can all do better with time and practice. So these things come into play. Well, Ali, you've done a wonderful job. It's been beautiful talking with you. Is there anything else you wanted to add about the program, or let the people at the Parkinson's Foundation know?
Just that it's I suppose what I do in the blog is I find a problem and a solution. So it's a problem-solving approach. I was looking for something else to write about that wasn't small handwriting or bending over forwards or sideways or whatever. And that's how I came about improv. And I thought, improv for Parkinson, well, what could possibly go wrong, And I was looking for a problem-solving approach. And as I said, it is a massive workout for my head, and I'm sure that when I miss out on it, the symptoms are worse. So
Well,
definitely.
thank you for sharing all
You're
of
very
it.
welcome. You're very welcome. Thank you.
And I'll look forward to seeing you at the next jam.
Yeah. We'll see you then.
All right, Ali, take care.
Say goodbye from Ducky Valley. Sorry.
Bye, Daring Ducky.